Hey guys, what's up? It's Lainey and today I am doing my March wrap up. I had a very successful reading month. I read 6 books out of my goal of 4. I'm also going to be including my TBR as well as my currently reading for the month of April here. The first book that I read was a romance book on audio, and that is Sins of Seven by Penelope Ward. I know Penelope Ward is a very successful romance author, so I wanted to try out one of her books. Tried out this one because it was free through the romance package, which I have on Audible. It's like $7 for the month in addition to the Audible membership, which is kind of annoying. But since I read so many audiobooks or listen to so many romance audiobooks, to me it's worth it. Anyway, I rated it a 2 out of 5. It's like I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it, but I thought a 3 was too high, but I didn't hate it. It's surrounding a very conservative religious family. They set up this young man, 7, with their daughter, Elle. When he comes and meets them, he kind of starts falling in love with the sister instead, and it's like this big, long, messy kind of relationship over a span of several years. So I just didn't know if I liked it or not. By the time I finished it, I was just like rushing to finish it. I didn't really care anymore about the characters. I think that kind of came down to the fact that I just didn't care about either of the hero or the heroine. The second book that I read this month was a reread for me, and I am just so glad I reread it, and that is More and More by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I actually listened to this book on audio, but I do have the physical copy because I read it back in 2014, I think, 2015, one of those years whenever it came out, and I love this book. Like, this is my favorite new adult book that I've ever read, and I kind of was interested to reread it to kind of see how I still felt about it. After I finished it, I went to what I rated it back when I first read it, and I rated it a 5 out of 5, and I was like, I still think that it's a 5 out of 5 star read. This book takes place in Las Vegas. It's surrounded by kind of like a Cirque du Soleil type company. Thora, who's the main character, I love Thora. Like, Thora is my favorite new adult heroine. She's the best. Mostly because, like, I really felt connected to her both times I read it, even though there's been a span of years. I'm like not the same person that I was when I first read this, but I still felt like those same feelings of such relatability that I have towards Thora, and I still feel that way towards her. She's a aerial artist. She kind of leaves her last year of college behind to go audition for the circus, essentially, in Las Vegas. It's this whole journey of her becoming better at what she does. Like, she's already good, but she knows that she's just average, and average isn't good enough in this kind of setting. So it's like showing how much she works hard to obtain her dreams. And I just like really loved the message that it had in the book, and of course the hero Nikolai in it is like the best. I love him as well, and what I like most about him is he's very supportive. He's such a supportive boyfriend when they start getting together. I love Krista and Becca Ritchie. They're my favorite new adult authors. I loved the Addicted series, the Calloway Sisters series. I still have Long Way Down and Some Like a Perfect to go before I move on to the next section of that whole saga. And this takes place in the same world as that series, so there's like cameo references to the Calloway sisters in this book and their dudes. And I realized this when I was reading this book and the next book that I read, which is also a Krista and Becca Ritchie book. I think their greatest writing strength is the way they develop their cast. I mean, this book is told in first person point of view with Thora. I fell so in love with all the side characters, and they're so well developed, which I think is really hard to do in a first person narrative, because you're seeing them through, you know, her eyes only. Krista and Becca Ritchie do such a phenomenal job of making you fall in love with the side characters. I'll go on to say that they're personally my favorite authors that write side characters really well. I highly, highly recommend this book and all of their books basically, but this one is definitely my favorite Krista and Becca Ritchie book. I listened to this one because I wanted to read Infamy, which is the second book in the series, and this one follows one of Nikolai's brothers, Luca, and I absolutely loved it. Again, it's just like the side characters make the story so much more special, especially because we've seen most of these side characters in the first book. Luca and Nikolai come from such a huge Russian-American family, so there's a whole bunch of cousins and their brothers and their sister Katya. I really love them. I just want a book on all of them. I would read them and I love them. I'm like gushing about this series right now. But the second book follows kind of a friends to romance, but kind of not. I don't know. I did like the second book, not as much as I liked the first book. The second one was a good solid continuation of the series. I would say that there are trigger warnings in the second book for depression and bulimia, so that is just an FYI if that makes you uncomfortable. Also, my favorite part about this book is that the couple is actually an interracial couple. Luca is obviously white or Russian American. And then the heroine Bailey she's mixed, so she's half black and half white. So I really liked that. And then I read my favorite book of the year, I feel like, so far. It's gonna be really hard to top it. Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. Oh my god, why was I sleeping on this book for so long? And I've had it since it came out. I was reading it so slow because I loved it so much. I love all the characters. I love Elias, I love Laya, and I love Helene so much. I'm so excited to continue on. I'm so excited for the third book. One thing that I loved most about this book was how well Sabaa Tahir writes first person present tense. I was so impressed with it because I think it's really hard to write first person present tense, mainly because I think it's really hard to write. The way she writes it is just so flowy. It just flows so well. It's so pleasant to read. I loved the world building in this book, and the characters were phenomenal, and I liked how dark it got. Like, this is a pretty dark book for a YA, I feel like. The next book that I read this month was Midnight Rescue by Elle Kennedy. This is, I think, don't quote me on this, I think this is Elle Kennedy's first series that she wrote. I'm not quite sure, but I rated this a 2 out of 5. Like, it was just okay. Did I like it more than I liked Sins of Seven? Yes, a whole lot. This book is very much like an action movie, and that was one of the things that I really liked about that. It's very fast-paced. Basically, this assassin, Abby, she intentionally blows her cover to the point where her handler, or her boss of the assassins, girl assassins, is like, I need some help getting her out because she doesn't know if she blew it on purpose or not. So she goes to this guy she has history with and is like, hey, I need your help getting this girl out of Colombia. They round up a team and like get her out, and then she's like, why the hell did you guys get me out? I was like trying to save these girls that were being sex trafficked. So then she gets into kind of like a thing or whatever with one of the guys, obviously, because that's, you know, it's a romance book. They have to like kind of work together to help rescue these girls. There's a lot of perspectives in this book, but I actually did not care about Abby and Kane at all. I was way more interested in the side couple that they kept like having chapters, because I loved that storyline. And I think that's why I rated it kind of lower, because I'm like, I'm not even invested in the couple that's kind of like in the spotlight for this book. I'm glad I read it because I've been wanting to read this series for a while, because it is Elle Kennedy and I really like Elle Kennedy's books. But it's clear that I like her later books. The last book that I read this month was Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. I've been reading Penelope Douglas's books for a while now. I read Corrupt, which was my favorite of her books that I've read so far, and then I read Bully at the beginning of January. This one I really enjoyed. This one I rated a 4 out of 5. Basically, the premise of the story is back in elementary school, this boy named Misha and this girl named Brian, they ended up being pen pals. They were paired with each other by their teachers, so then they started exchanging letters, but then eventually they kind of started doing it more and more even after they got out of elementary school, and they promised each other that they wouldn't look each other up on social media. There's more of a mystery aspect to them never meeting, and I understood that, because like when you correspond with someone online, even like when you meet them in real life, do they live up to the hype? So I really liked that aspect of it. Suddenly he stops writing her, and then she's like, what's going on? I don't want to say much else about it besides the fact that then this guy, it's Misha, comes to her school and he doesn't tell her who he is, even though he knows who she is. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I liked the mystery aspect of it. I think Penelope Douglas does mystery very well, because I've liked the mystery aspect in Corrupt. And this also takes place in the Corrupt world, because there were cameos from the boys that are in Corrupt, so I really liked that. I liked that nod. It takes place, you know, with their senior year. It's about a couple months before they graduate from high school, and there's just some aspects in it where I felt like it wasn't really believable, but I think that's kind of Penelope Douglas's MO, because I also felt like the same way about that when I read Bully, that some of these things that were happening in high school didn't seem very believable for how old they were, but I don't know, who knows, maybe that is how teenagers act now. I'm excited to continue more of her books because I'm liking them more than I'm not liking them, so that's good. Next, I wanted to go into my currently reading. I'm reading 4 books right now because I'm an idiot. I don't like reading this many books at once, but here we are. Since it is Camp NaNoWriMo, I haven't been able to read a lot of physical books, but I have been listening to a lot of books just because it's easier for me to listen to a book when I'm at work or when I'm commuting to work. I'm currently listening to When Dipple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. I'm I'm enjoying it. I'm probably not going to rate it more than a 3, but I'm really digging it so far. The reason why I'm listening to this book was because I saw it was free through the romance package, and I know that the author's going to be at Y'all West, which comes up in May, so I'm like, why not? I'm going to read it, I can check it off my list. I've read one of her books, so that's why I'm reading that one. I'm also currently reading Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I took a break from reading it for like about a month, but now I got back into it. I am over halfway through. I am loving it. I'm excited to finally read The Deathly Hallows though. That's like my goal for the next few months here. I am also currently reading The Tombs by Deborah Schomburg. I've been reading this book for a while because I'm not really enjoying it as much as I thought I would. I'm not very far into it either, but I'm reading it for review. But what's putting me off from finishing it is that the author uses the Romani people slur that starts with a G, so that kind of makes me uncomfortable because I know it's a slur. And what makes me even more uncomfortable about it is that there is a note in the back of the book, like an author's note, justifying the means for using the G word in this book for historical accuracy, and I personally hate that term. Like, you're introducing magic as canon in 1882 New York. So you can't do that and then claim historical accuracy for using a slur. So that's like my current feelings on it, but I'm like trying to finish it just so that I can review it. So yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it. And the last book that I'm currently reading is A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. I'm only like 2 chapters into it because Camp NaNoWriMo kind of just like took over my life, but I need to find some time to get this in because I need to read it. I started reading it, I was like getting all the feels again, and I was just getting really overwhelmed by how happy I was that I was reading it, that I had to put it down. I wasn't really planning on going to signings at Y'all West because I wanted to like mostly stick with the panels, but I am going to stand in line for Sabaa Tahir because now I feel like I need to tell her how much I love her books in person. And then for my TBR, I kind of already did a TBR for what I'm doing, and it's my Y'all West TBR. I want to read as many Y'all West books as I can before I get there. The next book in my queue to read is The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I'm very excited to read this book, and everybody's talking about it, and I feel left out that I'm not reading it. That's it for me. My name is Lainey. I make videos every Monday and Friday on books and writing, and my social media links will be listed down below so you guys can check me out other places if you'd like. I hope you guys all have a really great day, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!